Hindus claim their religion is millions of years old, eternal. Are they justified in saying this?
What they are actually saying is that the tradition that we embrace is a principle-oriented tradition, and principles are always eternal. Homo sapiens, thinking human being, only appeared on earth about 70,000-80,000 years ago. So you can't have been older than that. The reason is simply we are saying that the principles we are talking about have eternal values.
What empirical proof is there to explain the historicity of the Hindu tradition?
When we look at the archaeological evidence, we can see that the rudimentary ideas of Hinduism like swastika, sitting in meditation, were visible in the Mohenjo-daro digs. And that goes back to about 3000 BC. So we are talking something like 5000 years ago. Buddha, who is a historic figure, who lived about 2500 years ago, definitely adopted Hindu ideas of meditation to make spiritual progress. The ideas of Hinduism must have been prior to Buddha. It's very difficult to give exact historic dates. We see the first images of Mother Goddess as a pregnant woman visible in the archaeological evidence. The second thing we see is the swastika since very ancient times. And the third thing that we see is somebody sitting in meditation. So these are the three features that shows a continuity of this tradition over a few thousand years.
How did Hinduism start? In fact, how did all world religions start?
The foundation of all world religious traditions or mystic traditions is always experiential. The initial stages, we were just looking at the forces of nature, how all these forces interact with matter, and this is true with all civilizations. And so we find the same with the Greek civilizations, trying to relate to the sun god and the moon god, etc. Initially, mankind was trying to make sense of the world that he lived in. So he was trying to explain everything in material terms, including our own tradition. So we said, see fire, it burns. See water, it flows. Metal, it bends. This is how humanity was trying to relate to reality, seeing the world as matter and its attributes. And the first word we discover in our tradition is the word rita. Rita means this is how things unfold. So that is the initial word that we are using for perhaps 1000 years. And then that word got displaced by the word dharma, making sense of the world that we live in. Hinduism was highly materialistic. The Nyaya Vaisheshika philosophy are materialistic philosophies, but with Kapil and Sankhya darshan that we see a transition from a very materialistic vision to a very spiritual vision. People like Kapil have this deeper insight into the nature of reality. This is how the journey started, and then it moved into a different tempo after we discovered this idea of spirit. The ancient Hindu was trying to make sense of the world, and they tried to personify the forces of nature as various gods like Vayu and Indra and Agni and Varun, and appeasing them through the Havan ceremonies. The early philosophies that we have are called the Nyaya and Vaisheshika philosophy. The Vaisheshika philosophy is everything can be reduced to atom or particles. They are called Anu Parmanu. And the Nyaya philosophy is simply saying just using our intellect, let us come to terms with the nature of reality. Both these philosophies were essentially materialistic philosophies. There was a third one. This was called the Purva Mimamsa, focusing purely on ritual aspect. These are the three early philosophies of Hinduism, but they are all being put aside. This occurred with this marvelous person, Kapil Muni. Kapil is saying, before I make sense of the world, let me make sense of myself. So his journey went inwards. Kapil may have lived perhaps 500 or perhaps even 1000 years before Buddha. Kapil started the Sankhya darshan, which is a very dynamic system of philosophy, and that particular philosophy still applies today. That was then further modified by Patanjali prior to Buddha, and he produces material called Patanjali Yoga Sutra, saying that religions can be made experiential for the common man. It is this particular idea of yoga philosophy, of practicing yoga, that inspired Buddha to start looking inward and trying to resolve the human condition. So this is our spiritual journey.